It is perhaps one of the most familiar biblical passages and certainly one of the most quoted lines of the Hebrew Bible. And no, it is not Ezekiel 25:17 from the book of Pulp Fiction. What, you say? Any idea what it is? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you. Hi, I'm Daniel Seaman, and you're watching Straight Up on JNS Studios here in Jerusalem, Israel. Well, you do know the text. And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you. Genesis 12:3 is a famous quote from this week's Torah portion, Lech Lecha, in Bereshit, the book of Genesis, chapter 12. More important, though, is the opening sentence, the opening command of that chapter. And the Lord said to Avram, "Go forth from your land, and from your birthplace, and from your father's house, to the land that I will show you." These words mark the beginning of a covenant between God and Avram. It is the beginning of a destiny and identity, and the beginning of a people and their purpose. I've always been fascinated with the Jewish scriptures, specifically the Torah and the weekly portions, what we call the parasha, and with how rich in wisdom they are, yet grounded in human experience. How they've been studied and discussed, debated, and dissected year over year for thousands of years by millions of Jews, and yet still reveal new angles and new meanings. The story of Avram, not yet Abraham, has been told countless times. But like all the great stories, it never gets old, because it's never just been about the past. It is about us. It's about now. Lech Lecha is more than a historical moment. You can say that it is the introduction of Zionism. In a way, it is the first Aliyah story, the immigration story to the land of Israel. And it's a story that echoes in the lives of many of us who live here in Israel today. It also explains why, of all the possible locations throughout the world, we, the Jews, would choose to settle in this place, to the displeasure of so many in the world. Because Israel is a nation of those who have gone forth and have returned. Some of us came earlier in life, others came later. Some came with dreams, others through desperation. But all of us, in one way or another, have lived the experience of being uprooted and leaving behind the familiar and stepping into the unknown. I myself came here with my family as a child in 1971. I didn't understand what it meant at the time. Israel to me was a third world socialist country then, dusty, chaotic, underdeveloped. These conditions, though, were still a paradise compared to what my maternal great-grandfather and grandfather faced when they made the same exact journey here from Afghanistan 50 years before me in 1921. My great-grandfather, Mukhtar Rabbi Mashiach Gol, and my grandfather, Rabbi Daniel Gol, our family having lived in Afghanistan for generations, they heard whispers that the Geulah, the redemption, had begun. Like Avram, for them, that was enough. They made the decision to return to our ancestral homeland. No promises, no guarantees, just faith, just trust. And they gathered our family and they went forth. Today, they have hundreds of descendants living here in Israel. And our story is not unique. It's the story of so many families here in Israel. And like Avram, we are all in our own way blessed by living in Israel. But Lech Lecha isn't just about geography. In Hebrew, the phrase carries layers of meaning. It means go forth, yes, but it also means go from yourself. And perhaps most powerfully, it means go to yourself. Avram's journey wasn't just about reaching a destination. It was about transformation. He left as Avram. He arrived and became Abraham. He found his purpose, his calling, himself. And that too is the story of Aliyah, of migration to Israel. We don't come here for the promises. Well, not really. Yes, there are the tangible benefits, the tax breaks, the housing, the job placement, not to mention the sunshine and wonderful weather that we have here. And of course, it's the Israeli Hakol yeh beseder, everything will be okay, that promise that we all hear. But we all know better. The realities are, well, realities, and they're never easy. And yet, through all the hardship, the frustration, the bureaucracy, the chaos, and the beauty, something happens, something shifts. We begin to understand that we didn't just move, we answered a calling. That's the essence of Zionism. It's not a political slogan. It's not a party platform. It's a return, a reconnection, a rediscovery. And it's always been that way. Avram came with the divine promise, arrived, and he faced famine. He had to detour to Egypt. He came back and had trouble with the neighbors. Cultural differences, mentality clashes. Sounds familiar. He even did some combat service when the time came. How many of us can relate to that? The amazing parallels to today continue as Avram goes to war. He learns that his nephew, Lot, had been taken captive in a regional conflict. And Avram doesn't hesitate. He mobilizes 318 men, launches a daring rescue. It's the first recorded act of Jewish military courage. A small force, driven by conviction, standing up to a coalition of regional kings. Standing up to overwhelming power, not for conquest, not for glory, but to bring back a loved one. The same spirit lives on in Israel today, a nation surrounded by threats, but yet never paralyzed by fear. Since October 7th, when Hamas terrorists stormed our borders, abducted 250 innocent civilians, children, women, elderly, Israel has been fighting not just a war of defense, but a war of return, revival, and redemption. Tkuma in Hebrew, a war to remove the threat and bring our people home. Israel's fight is relentless, diplomatic, military, emotional. It's a fight for life, for dignity, for the sacred bond that says we do not leave our people behind. So when we, the Jews, read Lech Lecha, we're not just reading about a man who went to war. We're reading about our lives, our ancient homeland, about a nation that is still called upon to fight, not for conquest, but for our family. Of course, there is more than battle. After the battle comes the covenant. God doesn't promise ease, He promises destiny. He tells Avram, your descendants will suffer, be exiled, be enslaved, but they will return. They will inherit this land. It will not be easy. It is a mission that we have inherited. And that, again, is the essence of Zionism, endurance and covenant. The Lech Lecha parasha is not a command from God to just one man. It's an invitation to all of us, not only the Jews. Genesis 12:3 speaks directly to the moral and spiritual crossroads the world faces today. And I will bless those who bless you. This isn't just a poetic line. It's a divine declaration that how the world treats the Jewish people, and by extension the state of Israel, it matters. It has consequences. The world's response since October 7th has been mixed. Some nations have stood firmly with Israel, offering support, solidarity, and moral clarity. Others have condemned us or even justified the atrocities committed against us. Genesis 12:3 reminds us there is no neutrality in the face of evil. To bless Israel in its time of pain is to align with justice. To curse it or to remain silent is to stand on the wrong side of history. And yet the verse itself doesn't end with vengeance. It ends with hope. All the families of earth shall be blessed in you. This is the Jewish mission, to be a source of blessing, to bring light to the world, even when surrounded by darkness. Israel's fight today is not just militarily. It's moral. It's the fight to uphold life, dignity, and the sanctity of every human being. And those who bless that fight, who stand with Israel, not just in comfort, but in crisis, are part of the blessing. They are part of the covenant. They are part of the story. So when we read Genesis 12, we're not just reading ancient words. We're reading a mirror, a measure, a moral compass for today. Maybe it's the echo of God's voice in Abraham, Avraham, still vibrating in our collective DNA. Maybe it's something deeper, a yearning that can't be explained, only felt, but it draws us here to Israel. And in coming here to Israel, we don't just find a new home. We find meaning. We find purpose. We find that we are part of something greater than ourselves. And most of all, we find ourselves. Well, so much for the biblical stories and how they affect our lives and how they're connected to our lives today. And so let's jump over to our lives today. And I thought who better than a longtime journalist, a friend of mine that has been for many years in the Israeli media covering the events here. He was also the commander of the Galei Tzahal, the IDF radio station, for a couple of years. And now he is the political correspondent, the political analyst for Israel Hayom newspaper. And he naturally is dealing with the day-to-day events. And wanted to talk to him today to give us some of the insights that he has on the way, where things are going, how are they going, and what things should we be paying attention to. Danny, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's hop into it. The big picture of things is the agreement. How do you feel that it's going? Is it what we're expecting? I'm not talking about the impressions that people have. I'm talking about what we say in Hebrew, the tachlis, what's actually happening on the ground. And what do you see really happening with this, and giving us some direction where we can expect this to go from now?
I think the days just right now is coming to us are the most important ones, because now the thing is the big test of the whole agreement, of the whole Trump plan. If Hamas is, after he gave the live hostages, if Hamas is going to agree to give his arms, and that's the most important thing, and that's the key issue of the whole agreement. It means that if Hamas will not, basically the IDF will have to get into Gaza again to disarm him by force or by violence, as President Trump mentioned. And we hope that it will not happen, because there are different voices in Hamas. There are those that saying we'll never give up the weapons till we're going to have a Palestinian state. And there are those that saying that they have to, because if not, the IDF will get in. That's the main thing that pressed them to do so. So now it's the days that we're going to have the answers. I hope it's going to come soon. And of course, there is giving back, the dead hostages, the corpse that they allegedly digging out from the ground.
Right.
But we do know that they do hold already at least 5 to 8 bodies, and they're not giving them back. So it does not give a good, the Hamas is still playing games, and Israel is waiting for America, for the US, and for Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey to press Hamas to continue with the agreement. That's the place that we are staying on now.
And people have to realize that this agreement, there's several levels to it. There's the bigger picture of what the president, what the United States, and I think what Israel and many of the Muslim countries want to happen, to have this kind of acceptance of Israel and moving towards the future. Then there's the local aspects that include Syria, of course, Lebanon, Hezbollah, Turkey, and Egypt too, as an extension. And as you mentioned before, Hamas. So it is actually going one domino after the other. We have to finish the issue with Hamas so that we can correct the other things that will be necessary to bring this to the major goal, which is a total shift in what we know as the Middle East and as it has been for the past century.
And Hamas knows that. And Hamas is holding back a little bit because of that. With the help of Iran, with Iran in his back, that's practically the only state, the only nation that is in his back now, that helping him, and Iran pressing him not to give up, not to continue the fight against Israel, and to prevent the whole big plan that Israel, the US, of course, what we call the mega plan of Donald Trump, the president, and meaning, peace agreements with Saudi Arabia and maybe with other nations, as you mentioned, Syria, Lebanon, and others, and the whole new Middle East, a real new Middle East. That's the idea. And the war in Gaza is the thing that holding things, is the thing that is the barrier now, up till now. And that's why it's so important that the next days, maybe weeks, we'll see that there's a real pressure over Hamas to give its weapon, and basically to let us all going toward finishing the war, having the agreement of really finishing the war, him out, meaning Hamas as a terrorist organizations, give its weapons, and the force, the multilateral force will get in and be in power more or less there to prevent things happening against Israel, terror attacks against Israel. And that's what will open the door for all the future that we hope that we get into the Middle East.
Well, at the same time, you also have something similar. It's not at the same extent, because I believe that we were able to dismantle Hezbollah more than we had with Hamas for different reasons. Is there possibly our attention being diverted in the next few days, maybe in the week or so, towards what is happening in Lebanon? Because the Hezbollah, Lebanese government aren't being very successful in disarming the Hezbollah either, which is also part of this bigger picture of things.
Yes, definitely. Hezbollah is a big issue, of course. And these real days, there is negotiations between Israel and the Lebanese government and president, which is the guy that now he is in charge, trying to have Hezbollah out of the picture, at least south of the Litani River, meaning the 30-40 kilometers toward the Israeli border. And after that, going to the Bekaa, which is the main area that Hezbollah is holding its missiles. Now we have news that Hezbollah renewed some of the missiles that that Israel blew up before in the war. Was a year or so before.
How did they get this? From the Iranians? Were the Iranians?
Yeah, from the Iranians, and I'm not sure that from Iran itself, but Iranian missiles definitely got in back to Hezbollah bases in the Bekaa. But in the other hand, the south area, the Litani River and south, Israel is working hard to prevent Hezbollah from coming back with the help of the Lebanese army, which is they're not always admitting that, but with the help of them. But the Hezbollah is still continuing to try to get back to that areas. Maybe he even succeeded in some places, and that's a continuation situation that will held on for some time, because Hezbollah is much bigger than Hamas. It's well rooted in Lebanon, and that will be it will not be easy to disarm him. And that's a matter of years, I am afraid. But it will not prevent Israel and Lebanon to get into kind of an agreement. I'm not sure of a peace agreement, kind of an agreement that will make this border much more peaceful for Israel, and will help continue back to regular life in the northern border of Israel.
If we're talking about the northern border, of course, there's the situation in Syria, which has also shifted dramatically over the past year. And there seems to be pressures now. Israel moved into certain areas of Syria, were able to disarm the Syrian military itself, gave a little protection to some of the minorities in Syria. And now Syria is reestablishing itself with a new leadership, but they're not being satisfied with the way things are. They're looking to, and this is an interesting article that I saw you wrote this week, with the influence of Turkey, they're trying to turn things in a different direction. Can you elaborate a little on that?
Yes. Well, there is an ongoing talks between Israel and Syria, direct and indirect, that's supposed to bring kind of a security agreement between the sides. The Syrians demand that the Israeli troops will withdraw back to Israel, to the lines. We, of course, do not want that, because we know that if we'll do so, terrorist groups are going to get back to, again, the border of Israel in Ramat Golan, the Golan Heights. And
it's important, excuse me for interrupting, it's important to stress for our viewers that the areas that we're in right now are topographically, they give them superiority to look into Israel. So,
right.
Especially when you have an unstable government there, you don't want to give terrorists an advantage over Israel.
Yeah, and unstable is one word to describe that government. We need to remember, we cannot forget who is Ashar, the president. He is definitely one of the worst Muslim terrorists that were in the area, and then somehow he cleaned up. He was clean washed by too many and too fast governments in the West. It's actually unbelievable. And well, we have to say that it was with the help of Israel that he came back to power, because after the attack on Hezbollah withdrew from Lebanon, and then he managed to do so, and of course topple down Assad. But the thing is that he's trying to show that he is going for peace, trying to make Syria rebuild again, etc., etc. But in the other hand, he's still fighting the Kurds and the Druze, the Kurds in the east and the Druze in the southeast. And there were actually some horror views from there what his forces did to the Druze, especially. We are helping the Druze. Israel is helping the Druze, not only because of the Druze minority in Israel, but because it is one of our allies, and it can be. So the situation now is that within those talks, with the talks with Syria, Israel is refusing for now to withdraw until, for sometimes we don't know how long, until we're gonna have, first of all, a direct line to the Druze area in the what's called Mounts of Druze, the Mount of Druze, which is in the border with Jordan, between Syria and Jordan, and to make sure that there are no terrorist groups getting into the area that the IDF is now in, or at least on top of it, from the Mount Hermon, the Syrian Hermon, and etc. So the Syrian decided that they're going to go and try to press in a different way. And the different way is to demand again the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights is by law Israeli for what, 30 years already, 40 years already. We know that with this kind of regime, with terrorist regime, we cannot give anything of the Golan Heights because it will be a real threat to Israel in general. And of course, we demand the Golan Heights for Israel by law, as I said, as I mentioned. The Syrian trying to renew this claim over the Golan Heights. One explanation for that is that it's only with the negotiations, trying to press on one side to get something in the other side. But there is a different point of view of that too, which is that Turkey is pressing them to do so, to push Israel back to, because Turkey is on the other side of Syria. There's Turkey, Syria, and Israel, and trying to gain more pressure over Israel, because Turkey is, we must remember that, is a rival of Israel in the Middle East now, especially with this president, unlike it was before that we were good friends. The President Erdogan, of course, I mean. So in Israel, I didn't see any serious response for that, which is interesting. I think they're trying to calm down things and not respond, in vocally and make a big fuss of it. I think the ambassador Danny Danon is going to speak in the UN in the Security Council meeting. I think next month he's going to talk about it, but they're trying not to make it too big. I think that there is the agreement, the security agreement is not too far, and one of the most important reasons for that is the U.S. involved in it. The U.S. understand that Israel needs the security bases, the bases inside the Syria for some time, to make sure that no terrorist group will get in there, at least until the government in Damascus could make sure that it will not happen. And we are definitely not sure that this will happen. Now, we know that it will not happen if we go back to the Golan Heights.
Well, compared to other elements in the Middle East, Turkey, with all its I would say it's a displeasure with Israel. They're still part of NATO. They still have American bases. My family, my dad was in the American Air Force, so he served in Turkey. We lived in Izmir for a couple of years, and that's just one of the bases there. So America has the United States has a lot of influence on Turkey. So whatever happens there, there's still other aspects that can affect it. On the other side, we have Egypt. We do have a peace agreement with them. We have a peace agreement that the United States is the guarantors to, that it goes back to 1978 and the Camp David Accords back then. But still, we know that they were assisting the supplies to Hamas for a very long time. And there's a lot of talk of tensions going on in the Sinai with Egypt. What can you tell us about what is going on there?
Egypt is hard to understand, I must say. Hard to understand. Because in one hand, they need us. They need us. One way is the intelligence. We help them, and we are helping them fighting ISIS tribes in Sinai. We helped them a lot, and they had very big fights with they had clashes with them, and the ISIS tribes did a lot of things. They did terror attacks, and they fought the Egyptian army. We helped them in that term. B, we are helping them with, it's actually an agreement that's going to be signed really soon, the gas agreement that we are selling them natural gas from the Israelis, sells in the Mediterranean, going to Egypt. Egypt needs that really, really in strong way that you can say, because one way is for their energy, second is to selling, they're taking this gas and then liquidate it and selling it to Europe. They have a big problem, money problem. They have a big foreign currency problem, and they need that foreign currency.
So
In the
you're
other
not
hand,
worried about them. They may be for show, showing that they're tough, but you're not concerned of them breaking the rules or anything.
well, they do break the rules already. You mentioned it before. First, letting Hamas have all these arms under their eyes with their help, and sometimes through the Rafah border, through the tunnels. Some of the tunnels were actually in the Egyptian side on army bases of the Egyptian army. So they were a part of it, and a part of escalating, and a part of giving Hamas the weapons that threatened Israel, and a part of lighting the fire between Hamas and Israel. And that's one thing. The second thing that which is problematic in the Israeli eyes, of course, is a lot of forces getting in from Egypt, the African side of the canal to Sinai, and I'm talking about tanks. I'm talking about a lot of armor vehicles that are not allowed by the agreements to get in. At the beginning, it was with the permission of Israel for some amounts to fight ISIS, but then they brought in many more. And the third thing is there's a lot of smuggling of weapons and drugs through the border. And the thing now is that they're allowing, and at least they're not fighting, the smuggling of weapons and arms with drones above the border between Israel and Egypt. And it's with huge amounts, and it's smuggling to the Bedouin tribes in the Israeli side. And from there, a lot of weapons. And I'm not talking only about pistols. We're talking about machine guns. We're talking about small missiles, anti-tank missiles, etc.
Anti-tank missiles? Wow. I heard about the heavy machine guns. I didn't know about anti-tank missiles. Wow.
Yeah, that's and the thing is that if it was only pistols and I don't know guns like M16 or so, you think okay, maybe they need to use that for criminal things, But when you bring machine guns and when you bring anti-tank missiles, it's a whole different story. So now the Israeli Shabak, the security organization, gonna start checking that, and I hope that they're gonna stop it. But what you see from Egypt, that they are not doing anything to stop that.
And also, when you were talking about Egypt and you're saying how Israel assists them, we haven't heard anything for a while. I wonder if why they don't miss us anymore. They haven't been sending missiles in our direction. I'm talking about the Houthis in Yemen. We can joke about it now. But their actions there in the straits of that area were also affecting Egypt. Were affecting the Suez Canal with the ships going through it, the money that they were getting there. So our activities against the Houthis, as well as the United States, also had a positive effect or would eventually benefit the Egyptians. So first off, is there anything to add on the Houthis right now? And how are the Egyptians also, will they benefit by the fact that the Houthis are disarmed, if we want to call it that?
Yeah, I talked before about the problem they have with the foreign currency, and I think they lost between $5 to $10 billion a year from ships that stopped going through the Suez Canal. That's one of them. And the Egyptians have all the interests in the world to make the Gaza war stop. That's their huge interest, and that's why I was surprised to see during the negotiations that in too many times they were, I won't say helping Hamas, but at least not pressing him enough to stop the war. But yes, they're gonna have when the Houthis, they basically stopped, but the ships are still not coming in the same flow that they came before. I must say that against the Houthis, we fought. Israel did a lot of damage to them, even though the Americans stopped in some point. And the attacks against ships that come from Iran with weapons to the Houthis, there are more than a few. ships that they're trying to rebuild again their missile program and other kind of weapons. And at least 2 or 3 ships that were either arrested or attacked by who knows who forces in the way to the Houthis areas. You can't call it Yemen because the 2 Yemens and the Houthis are ruling a big area there. So I think that for now they are waiting. They're waiting to see what's going to happen in Israel, but in the Gaza war. But I think they're beaten. They are kind of trying to rebuild themselves and trying not to lose the whole government with the war with the South Yemen government. And so that's why we're going to have, for some time at least, quiet from that border, from that area. But I'm not sure it will hold for long because I think they need to show that they're still there and they are an arm of Iran, and Iran do want to destabilize the area. So I'm not sure that the threat from the Houthis is gone.
So basically, the way we are looking at all these things is that when anybody talking about the end of the war, well, this stage, it's a war that's been going on for almost 80 years now, and it's a new stage in it. It's a very historic stage. We may end this stage in it, but there are those who it seems like it's when you talk about the Egyptians, it's like second nature to them to continue to try to undermine Israel and its presence here. So we shouldn't be too optimistic in that. We could end the battle, but there's still going to be these forces that have to be recognized and addressed. I just want to end with one last thing, which is Judea and Samaria, the Palestinian Authority, Jordan, which are close to them. Any thoughts on that? There's also Israeli activity in that area. I want to end with that. What do you think could happen on that area, and where is it going, both Jordan and with Judea and Samaria?
Yeah. I will start with a poll that was published in recent days. There is an institute of Fatri Shkati, which is kind of a reliable one, or at least the only reliable one in the West Bank, that asked the support of the Palestinian people on the Gaza war, on the attack of Hamas, the October 7th attack. Still, more than 50% of the population supports that, even though they saw what the outcome was, even though that they saw what happened to Gaza and so many people killed there. And, the whole issue is still that we do have a very serious problem with the Palestinian people, with their will to demolish Israel. And that's a will that it will be very hard to change. And if it will happen with, the de-radicalizations plan and the education plan, etc., it will take years. So that's the basic, still the basic of it. Now, the situation in the field now is that the IDF is working very hard to prevent terror attacks. Actually, there's now just a piece of news that came that they prevented one of a prisoner that was released in one of the deals of the hostages.
Wow.
They caught him, and just now they published that. So they're going to keep continuing, but the army did a change of the way that he works in the West Bank, getting in much deeper, attacking in much bigger forces, and he will manage to prevent most of the attacks. We know that the Hamas, after the ceasefire in Gaza, is trying to continue with the terror attacks. Well, first in Gaza too. I mean, in Khan Yunis, Rafah, we saw that the other day. They keep attacking, and Hamas is claiming that it's not their people or that they don't have connection, which is, of course, bullshit. Excuse my language. But in the West Bank, they're trying. They're always trying to, and they will try to even harder now. We're working very hard there. Now, the thing is, what will happen if the war in Gaza will end and the agreement, the Trump plan will continue? Because over there is a view for the Palestinians for a Palestinian state. There is one article there that mentioning that in the future, after bigger forums, after de-radicalizations, etc., so they allegedly have a light in the end of the tunnel, allegedly. If Are they going to accept that? Are they going to take it? Are going to do the de-radicalization process? I have big doubts about it.
Well, maybe they will, maybe finally, but at least now they're being held to some standards and not just given everything in this belief that we can all, if we just give them, they'll want to have peace with us. As we can see, it's not part of their nature. But if you give them, try to create some kind of incentive, maybe that will work. But as you said, history has taught us we can't be optimistic about it.
That's what Oslo Agreement tried to do.
Yeah, exactly. Danny Zakian, we could have continued on and on with this. I want to thank you for being with us and sharing your insights into the puzzle that is going on here in the Middle East. Danny Zakian, as I mentioned, is the political analyst for Israel Hayom newspaper, a former commander of the IDF radio station, Galei Tzahal. Thank you very much for being with us, and also thank all of our viewers for being with us here. I'm Daniel Seaman. See you again next week.